Bet with the big don't argue. Punters will love that. Download our app today and enjoy tackle-busting benefits with great promos, great odds and same-game multi this footy finals at Palmerbet. Gamble responsibly. For Gamblers' Help, call 1-800-858-858.
Welcome everyone to Fergo and the Freak. I'm your host, the Glorious League Freak, and you can probably hear my voice sounds a little bit funny. It's not because I've been drinking, it's just because I've been yelling at the TV. Because tonight we witnessed the Penrith Panthers defeat the South Sydney Rabbitohs 32 points to 12 at Homebush Stadium in a game that started off with me thinking, oh man, the Panthers haven't turned up in this one. And we're putting in their worst first half of the season, I dare say. Early on in the match, the thing that got me really, really early on in the match was Penrith kicked off and South had to, hit it up off their own line. And normally in those situations, you would see the Panthers be able to just trap a team down in their own half. And after a few sets of six, South was starting to get their way out. And they just looked the better team. They looked a far better team for most of the first half. Penrith had a few tries disallowed, and, there was really only one of them that you kind of looked at and you said, well, that's pretty harsh and pedantic, but the other ones you couldn't argue with. But, we're going into half-time. Souths are up 12-0, and the Panthers weren't throwing anything at them in attack. Even the tries that they didn't score, it was a case of they come from the bounce of the ball and kicks and all sorts of stuff. Their attack wasn't doing it. And then as we're leading into half-time, Penrith puts on two lucky tries. Very, very lucky tries. And we're going into half-time where it's 12-all and Souths have been dominant for the first half and they've got nothing for it. And all I could think of was, how is that not devastating to Souths? How is that not just completely deflating? Because they'd done so well. They had Penrith they looked like they were gone. Penrith looked like they were out of it. Penrith went on to score 32 unanswered points after Souths went up 12-0. And the second half was pretty much all Penrith. They looked like a completely different team in the second half. It was probably very easy to motivate this Panthers side as a coach and a coaching staff in the sheds at halftime compared to what the South Sydney staff probably had to deal with at halftime. Penrith had a lot of improvement in them. South probably had improvement in them too, but not to the level that the Panthers had. And the Panthers knew it. And I think South probably knew it too. And in that second half, we just saw a different game. And the Panthers really, they put it on South, It was a weird game. I don't even know how to feel about it. A couple of things that come out of this game. There was a really bad high tackle. There was a bad high tackle on Spencer Leniu. An old-fashioned coat hanger. And one of the interesting things was that Spencer Leniu was waiting on the sideline and he had all of the Panthers staff around him who were telling him to basically get into the sheds that were protecting him from doing something really bad. That's when you know when a footballer is kind of the real deal, when they're mouthing off at someone, when people around them look scared and it's their own team and their own people and personnel. I think he'll be fine for next week, Spencer Leniu, but it was a bad high tackle. Viliami Kikau, he's going to have to answer for a shoulder charge that he barely managed to get on Campbell Graham of Souths. I think he'll end up getting off with that. I would be shocked if he got suspended. There wasn't a huge amount in it, to be honest with you. And I think Penrith will obviously fight that charge if they've got the chance to anyway. But outside of that, the Panthers looked all right coming out of this game. South played their arse off. You got to hand it to South. They played their ass off, and their fans turned up in numbers for this game. They outnumbered Panthers fans at the stadium, at Homebush Stadium, and that's their home ground, their traditional home ground for the last number of years. So, but they turned up and they were in full voice, and they must have been so happy. It was only about, 8 minutes out from half time. And then you go into half time and it's all tied up. Man, just devastating. A devastating turnaround in a couple of minutes for Souths. Now, there was a hit on Latrell Mitchell. It was completely legal hit that happened in the first half on Latrell Mitchell. I've never seen Latrell Mitchell get hit that hard, ever. And it rattled him. And I think he was quiet for the rest of the game because of that hit. And I'm not saying that, one of these players that there's some players you can hit hard and they go in their shell. I don't think it was that. I think he was actually rattled. I think that you might find out he was probably concussed by it. As I said, there was nothing illegal in the hit. It was just an absolute blasting tackle. And a big dude like that getting hit in a big tackle, it's a lot of momentum, it's a lot of force. And I wouldn't be shocked if we find out that Latrell Mitchell doesn't even remember much of the rest of the first half or something like that, because he was just very quiet for the rest of the game. I thought Damien Cook played well. I thought Ilias was what you would kind of expect from a rookie halfback. He had a few little moments here or there, but it was a big occasion for him to stand up in, and he'll be better for that run. In the second half, Nathan Cleary really stood up. I thought the Panthers as a whole stood up. Brian To'o was fantastic in the entire match. I don't know how many metres he ran for. Let me see if I can bring it up on the NRL website. But half time, let's have a look here. Team stats, player stats. He was 293 metres. He was a beast. And he scored one of probably the most famous tries now in Penrith's rugby league history, where he got an intercept. It was a ball that Latrell Mitchell actually threw to Campbell Graham. It was too hard. Campbell Graham couldn't handle it. It was not a good pass. To'o sweeped on it, picked it up. He was never going to have the speed to get to the line. Cody Walker comes up on him, and To'o just squares up on him and just barrels him over. And then Walker, as he's tumbling down the field, basically trips over about 4 of his teammates. Made a fantastic, spectacular-looking try. But really, it was a real game-changing moment too. The Api Coruscant try was very, very lucky. South managed to turn him on his back almost, and the ball just scraped over the line. Caught a bit of chalk. That's all it takes. It was just so deflating for South. And I, as a Panthers fan, I'm like, I get to half time and I'm like, I can't believe it. I could not believe it. And I was thinking, what does South think about that? Like, how do you get yourself up for the second half when you've just seen a really, really good lead over a great team just vanish all of a sudden? It was crazy. South played as hard as they could, and, you got to give them credit for that, but it just wasn't enough, This Penrith team, it's a hell of a team. They go in against Parramatta next week. They'll have one less day in terms of preparation, but that doesn't really matter. It's more than a week's preparation. They've had plenty of time off over the last month, so they don't need any more time off. The big thing is where the kick-out will play going into the grand final. I tell you what, if Parramatta can beat this Panthers team in the grand final, they're a great champion. That's what it comes down to. And if Penrith win this grand final, we start looking at where they line up against the great teams, especially in the modern era of the game. Because not many teams have won back-to-back grand finals. Not many teams have been in 3 straight grand finals. No team has ever won 20 wins in a row in 3 straight years, ever, in the history of the game. So then you start, lining up where they're at, and then you start thinking about how young they are. They really should be years from achieving all of the stuff they've already achieved, and they've got more to achieve. Now, one of the things that stood out for me, after the game, Full time goes, and the Panthers do not celebrate. There's no celebration there from them at all. It was like round 5 of the regular season, where they just, they'd won. And they congratulated the other team and walked off the field. You look at that compared to what Parramatta were doing when they beat North Queensland. Parramatta was celebrating a little bit. And I'm not saying you can't celebrate, but it's just it's your mindsets. It's, have you been there before? How is this week going to be for this Parramatta team? It's going to be a real whirlwind for them. They don't really have any premiership or grand final experience that I can think of in their side off the top of my head. This is all going to be a new experience for that club or that group of players at the club. They will have to get in some players that have been there and done that. And look, they have to go back a long way to do that, unfortunately. How are they going to handle this week compared to Penrith, who this has been their football life for the last 3 years, You make the grand final. That is going to be very telling. Some teams handle it really, really well. Like, I think back to the Panthers in 2003, they handled it great. They were a young team. First grand final. And they just handled it great, For players in that situation, if you're excited, to let yourself be excited. Don't play the game in your head before it's been played. Don't burn all your nervous energy. If you're calm, don't be worried about it. If you're relaxed, don't be worried about it. I tend to like to see a football team going into a grand final looking a little bit relaxed. I don't like to see them tense. When they're tense, that worries me a little bit. It's not to say that they're going to always lose the game. It's just I would prefer them to be a little bit more relaxed. Big week coming up. It is the first time we've seen the Panthers and the Eels play in a grand final, obviously. We've never seen a grand final like this, I don't think, in the NRL. I guess South and the Roosters is the Eastern Suburbs version of this. But Western Sydney is going to be buzzing. Looking forward to next week. It's going to be interesting to see what the betting odds are for this game. I don't know how I feel about this game. Look, I think when you get to a grand final, to be honest, I think it's 50-50. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know. It's all based on big moments, players stepping up when it matters, who handles the occasion better, just things like that. All of those weird little things that can you prepare for? You can prepare some things, but not all of those things. Some of those things you just got to hope it falls right for you on the day, It's going to be interesting. It's going to be really, really interesting. I wanted to make sure I did this because I would have 100% recorded this podcast if Penrith had lost. I was thinking about what I was going to say on the podcast. If through most of the first half, I was like, man, I'm going to be talking about, well, I had a great run, and if you had told me they'd, make 2 grand finals, win one of them and lose a preliminary final, I'd have taken that a number of years ago. Now they're in 3 straight grand finals, and big week ahead. It's going to be really interesting. I hope you enjoyed the game. Commiserations to Souths. They've achieved a lot as a club. I was actually thinking during this game, when you go back not too far, Souths even making the finals was a pipe dream. And now they make the preliminary finals again and again and again. And, if you're a Souths fan and you're thinking, wow, we didn't do great this year. Nah. You want to be there or thereabouts, You want to be this close. At the very least, Souths have done very, very well to be this good of a team for so long. Not many teams have achieved what they have. And, it's just, at the end of the day, the game just didn't go their way. And I think that this will be one that they'll think about for an entire off-season and really feel like they should have put this one away. Especially Latrell Mitchell. I think that this is going to be a game that's going to burn with him for a while. He probably should have played better in this game. He really should have. But that's why we play the games. You never know. You know, some players, they stand up in these contests. Other players, you hope they'll stand up and they don't quite. And then sometimes you just get, somebody from nowhere who's just absolutely amazing in these games. You weren't expecting it. And that's why we play the games. You don't know. And that's why we're looking forward to next week. Penrith Panthers versus Parramatta. If you're not excited for that, you don't like rugby league. Thank you for listening to the podcast. It's only a small, quick episode, this one. There will be so many podcasts you will hear from us this week. Like, there might be a podcast every single day. So just be prepared. I'm going to try and get Panthers people on. I'm going to try and get Parramatta people on. We're going to see what everyone thinks of the game. It's too early to tell for me. I won't spoil what I think next week's game is going to be like. I'm not nervous about it. I would say that this is the game we all kind of want to see happen. And as I said, if Parramatta wins this game, they've beaten a bloody good Panthers team to do it. If the Panthers win this game, we're lining them up on a different level. They're the stakes you want. They're the stakes you want in rugby league. Thank you for listening. I will be watching the Super League Grand Final later on tonight. That's Leeds versus St Helens. I think St Helens will win. I'm hoping I get through the entire game because it's on very late at night. Expect another podcast from us probably within the next 48 hours. Congratulations to South on a very, very good season. They turned things around as the season went on. I think they've got something to build on there. And yeah, let's look forward to a big grand final week. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you soon.
Oh, Palmerbet with the big don't argue. Punters will love that. Download our app today and enjoy tackle-busting benefits with great promos, great odds and same-game multi this footy finals at Palmerbet. Gamble responsibly. For Gamblers' Help, call 1-800-858-858.